What's up, YouTube? It is the one and only Legend of Winning, aka Low, and I am back with another video. Now let's take a quick trip back memory lane towards the beginning of the season where all the GMs sat down. They had a poll amongst one another. In the poll, they asked the question, which player would you start your franchise with? And Karl-Anthony Towns, he found himself at the top of the list. Some people had problems with that, debating that Karl-Anthony Towns isn't better than Anthony Davis yet. Other people still believe LeBron James should be ahead of that list. However, looking back at it now, because you know, hindsight is 20/20, it's extremely interesting that Giannis wasn't picked over Karl-Anthony Towns, or at least his numbers weren't up there amongst the other great players. Quite frankly, even I have underestimated the greatness of Giannis Antetokounmpo. Even when I did my top 5 list of young players, I completely forgot him. And quite frankly, not only can he be one of the greatest players in the NBA, he has the potential to be one of the greatest players we've ever seen in NBA history. But even if you don't want to believe that, you have to look forward in the next 10 years and come to the conclusion that he will be one of the players in the forefront to continue to push his NBA in the right direction. And I would even make the argument that in the next 10 years, he will be the greatest player in the NBA. But hey, even if you don't believe me, let's sit down, let's talk about it, because I have 4 reasons why Giannis Antetokounmpo will be the greatest player in the NBA within the next 10 seasons. Also, before I start this video, just a real quick side note real quick. I really get annoyed when people call him Giannis. It's obvious that it's Giannis. Just go look it up. It's pronounced Giannis. Giannis. But you know, that's just me. I'm just nitpicking. Anyway, play my transition music. So first things first, let's just talk about his versatility. When it comes to Giannis and really a lot of these young up-and-coming players, versatility is so key in his game that it's rather impressive to see what he's able to do on the court, especially at his size and his stature. When you look at Giannis' numbers, he's leading the Milwaukee Bucks in all 5 major statistical categories, averaging nearly 24 points, nearly 9 rebounds, 5 assists, almost 2 steals, and 2 blocks, while shooting 53% from the field. Let's just take a moment and realize what I just said, because I don't think a lot of people understand how versatile of a player that is. When it comes to the NBA, Giannis is top 15 in points, top 20 in rebounds, top 25 in assists, top 10 in steals, and top 5 in blocks. That is remarkable, and going back through NBA history, it's a very, very small amount of players that have been able to lead their team in all 5 major statistical categories. With his abilities and with these skills, not only is Giannis a dominant scorer, or has the potential to be a dominant scorer, but also he's a main contributor when it comes to facilitating the ball. On the defensive end, his versatility lends him to guard multiple positions. He is built to guard 2s, 3s, and 4s. However, because of his wingspan, he can stretch it all the way out to the 5, and his athleticism is able to guard point guards as well. Quite frankly, Giannis is the most unique player the NBA has ever seen. Sure, you have players like Magic Johnson, Scottie Pippen, and even recently the players like LeBron James and Kevin Durant. However, I don't think nobody really has had the impact or has potential to have an impact like Giannis does. But just going back, looking at his sheer numbers, Giannis has the potential to put up numbers that, quite frankly, nobody's ever been able to put up in NBA history, which then leads me to my next point. Now, similar to what I said with John Wall and what I'm going to continue to say about a lot of players in the NBA, there's a lot of people that are going unnoticed when it comes to their numbers, because there are multiple players who are having historic seasons this year, simply because, you know, Russell Westbrook is averaging a triple-double and James Harden is putting up ridiculous numbers as well. However, when you take the time and actually research it, according to Basketball Reference, Giannis is one of the only 2 players to average 20+ points along with 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 blocks. The other player who was able to accomplish this is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. However, if you don't like those numbers, let's take into account that he's only 22 years of age. For his age and the numbers that he's putting up, he is historically having one of the greatest seasons a young player's ever had in their career. Let's take into account that he's 22 years of age, and let's also take into account that you consider him a quote-unquote big man. So any player within the age of 22 who's averaged 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 blocks, according to Basketball Reference, there have been only 8 players who ever accomplished this in the NBA history. Again, only at the young age of 22. Those players include Anthony Davis, Shaquille O'Neal, Tim Duncan, Dwight Howard, Bob McAdoo, Alonzo Mourning, Hakeem Olajuwon, and obviously Giannis Antetokounmpo. However, let's just say you consider him a ball handler, the player that facilitates, which he does as well. That's the greatest thing about him. So if you compare him to other ball handlers at the age of 22, players that have been able to average 20 points, 5 assists, and 1.5 steals, again, according to Basketball Reference, only 14 players have been able to accomplish this. That is including Giannis, along with Russell Westbrook, Chris Paul, Tracy McGrady, LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, crazy enough, Chris Webber, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, and a few other players as well. So it doesn't matter what type of context you want to put around him. If you believe that he's a ball handler at the young age of 22, he's putting up historic numbers. If you think that he's a big, at the young age of 22, he's still putting up crazy numbers. However, if you just want to lift all the restrictions from him and you want to look at his numbers compared to everybody else in NBA history, regardless of age and position, Giannis is still putting up historic numbers. The next unique thing about Giannis Antetokounmpo is the fact that he is a freak, hence the name Greek Freak. If you look at his physical attributes, it's something that I don't think any of us have ever seen in NBA history. First and foremost, he is 6'11". Not only that, he has a 7'3" wingspan. So not only is he the height of a player such as DeMarcus Cousins, but he also has a wingspan that's longer than Dwight Howard's. Add on top of the fact that he's a ball handler, and that is ridiculous. Not only that, his hand length is roughly around 10 to 12 inches, which is also extremely impressive. And on top of that, his athleticism allows him to do things on the court that more so reminds me of these myths that they speak about when they talk about Wilt Chamberlain. When you look at the way that he plays, it only takes him around 10 steps to cover the entire court. Each step that he takes covers roughly around 9 feet. Not only that, he has a 44-inch vertical, which again is extremely impressive. Like I stated earlier, the athleticism that Giannis continues to show on the court is something that more so resembles Wilt Chamberlain, or at least myths that we've heard about Wilt Chamberlain, what he's able to do on the court. When it comes to Wilt Chamberlain, I've consistently heard people claim that Wilt did things on the court that nobody else has ever been able to do, and quite frankly, I never even believed them because I couldn't believe that someone at 7 feet tall could have that type of athleticism. However, looking at Giannis, almost at 7 feet tall, shares a lot of the same characteristics. Obviously, he's not 7'1", and obviously his wingspan isn't as wide as Wilt. However, having a player like Giannis Antetokounmpo at that height, that size, with that type of athleticism actually makes me believe that someone like a Wilt Chamberlain exists at one point in time in NBA history. So when it comes to Giannis, his uniqueness is brought to the forefront when it comes to his frame and his body build. And on top of that, athletically, he's able to keep up with a lot of other guards in the NBA, which is extremely scary, especially someone who has a 7'3" wingspan and stands at 6'11". And finally, the biggest reason why I believe Giannis will one day be the greatest player in the NBA within the next 5 to 10 seasons is simply because of his work ethics. I think we all know the crazy stories about Kobe and what he used to do off the court and his practice and his routine and his work ethics and how that was able to positively affect what he did on the floor. So I think it's only right that I share some stories that I've read from the Sports Illustrated article that I will link in the description. Sometime when Giannis loses, he'll end up going to a local gym and practice all the way up until 1 to 3 o'clock in the morning. And if that's not good enough for you, even when they win the game, he still goes to the local gym and he still practices after games. For example, in the article it writes, after Giannis had arguably his best game in his entire career after beating the Washington Wizards by 27 points, only playing 32 minutes that game, posted up 39 points, 6 assists, 8 rebounds, 2 steals, 1 block, and only 1 turnover, Giannis, after the game, was told by Tony Snell not to go to the gym and practice, take it easy and chill, because it was only 2 days before Christmas. However, Giannis kind of nodded it off and still made his way to the gym even though it was snowing that day. Also, to pair with his work ethics, I also want to bring up the fact that he's being coached by Jason Kidd. A lot of people speak highly of the type of relationship that Kevin Garnett and Karl-Anthony Towns had last year, and I'm pretty sure, I'm almost 100% positive, that it positively affected Karl-Anthony Towns' outlook in the way that he's going to play basketball from here on out. However, I just don't hear that much about Jason Kidd and Giannis. For one, Jason Kidd is one of the greatest point guards in NBA history. 2, he's extremely versatile. He started in the list for the most triple-doubles in NBA history with 107. So if there's anybody who's going to teach Giannis about being versatile, Jason Kidd is probably going to be one of the first players on that list. And not only that, if you think about it, Kevin Garnett was only with Karl-Anthony Towns for 1 season. But when it comes to Giannis and Jason Kidd, that is something that will be there for a very long time. So if you have the work ethics of Giannis, then you pair that with the tutelage of a Jason Kidd, the physical attributes that Giannis has with his height and his wingspan, and having the potential to get better from the historic numbers that he's already posting up this year at the young age of 22, quite frankly, I don't understand how you don't believe that Giannis will eventually be one of the greatest players in the NBA. And I would go as far as saying Giannis is on pace of being one of the greatest players of all time. So there you have it, people. Those are 4 reasons why Giannis moving forward will be one of the greatest players in the NBA within the next 10 years. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button as well. And if you feel like you want me to talk about any other player in the league, make sure you leave the comment in the comment section below, because a lot of people have honestly requested me to do this. Also, follow me on Twitter, where I post up a lot of content. I'm starting to be a lot more active on Twitter as well. Also, make sure you check me out on the B Souls podcast. I was on there earlier this week, or I guess last week. So make sure you go check that out as well. I'll put a link in the description. Also, tell him when you go to the channel that Lo sent you as well, so he knows that, you know, I'm sending him a little traffic my way. And also, make sure you keep up on the channel by hitting the notification bell as well. With all that being said, though, I will see you all next time. Peace.